Good afternoon to people in the Central European region, and good morning or good evening for everybody who is from the US or anywhere else, not Europe. And for also welcome to everybody watching the videos, which I assume several people would like to do because it's a difficult time to meet a Saturday. And I'm actually quite happy again to welcoming Mifi and talking about mudras and Bell and Dorje. I'm looking really forward to it. I don't have anything else to say. So welcome to Mifi.
Thank you, Lars. That's brilliant. Hello, welcome back, everyone. It's so nice to be here. It's my really precious special spot here in Brisbane, Australia, because it's the midnight Dharma class, and I think that there's something really great about that. So we're going through the Dharma Toolkit, Demystifying Tibetan Buddhist Ritual, and we're going to look at mudras and using the bell and dorji today and what that all means. So it's about discovering actually the power of literally embodying the Buddhist practice. So embodying Tantric Buddhism, the meaning behind the movements, how they work, why they work. There's also a deep psychological and physiological reason. And we'll talk about who can and can't do mudras, like what's the criteria, and how to actually perform these transformative gestures, how to incorporate using bell, dorji, and damaru in our practice. So I'm not going to teach you how to do mudras because I'm not qualified. You need a qualified tantric practitioner who is able to pass on the lineage. But what I can do is just help to demystify a little bit, and as beginners, just share what I've found useful for myself learning about this, how to approach the practice without anxiety, without superstition. So just trying to bridge it as from us kind of modern people to bridge what is the real deep transformative meaning of this type of practice. So I've got a couple of videos to show you to kind of lead you through a story today. And we'll have time for questions and things. So of course, if you have questions, raise your hand or put them in the chat or something like that. Let's take a moment to set our motivation. So we're here, as Venerable Rabina so often says, you know, the two wings of the bird. So the wisdom wing, we're here to develop our wisdom, to bring forth our Buddha potential of the Dharmakaya. And we can set our motivation that it is in the spirit of curiosity, of being comfortable being a beginner and wanting to find out about things. And then the wing of the method or the compassion, how do we do it? How do we actually embody the practice? How do we help others? How can we manifest kindness and harmony in the world? How can we put it all together? And from the Buddhist point of view, it's the wisdom that supports the compassion. So we need both. Curiosity and kindness, and starting from a nice relaxed attitude like that, and recognizing that with the tantric vehicle, the altruistic tantric vehicle, it can lead us all the way to enlightenment in one short lifetime. So it's amazing. And if we can do that, then we can help every single sentient being in the best possible way. So for that reason, then we can find out about it, at least a little bit about it. So the screen share that I wanted to start with to introduce you to mudras, because mudra literally means a seal or a gesture or a mark. And who can forget this? Such an electrifying experience. Amanda Gorman at the presidential inauguration, you know, reading her amazing poem. And her I mean, I found out later on, you know, she's such an amazing young woman. When she was a child, she had a terrible stutter, and she was able to overcome her stutter. And when she recited her poem, her fingers so delicately held the meaning. She was so expressive. So mudras are symbolic hand gestures that are endowed with power. So it's not that someone puts the power on, but it's kind of like harnessing that power and embodying them with the hand gestures. And each sacred hand gesture has a specific meaning. And so many of the Buddhist hand gestures or mudras symbolize really important moments or events in the Buddha's life, or to do with the Buddha's qualities. So one of the lamas from Kopan Monastery at the first ritual service seminar, Ken Rinpoche Lama Lundrup, said, "Every major tradition has its own unique way of doing the mudra, the chant, and so forth. And that's always established by the chant master, or the umze. Similarly, within the FPMT centers, establishing the tradition of performing rituals according to the instructions of Kyabje Zopa Rinpoche would be the most significant thing that we could do. This will help the center and the whole organization to become special." So it would be really wonderful if we can, in our own good time, nicely learn as we go along, learn how to do these practices really nicely and with a great appreciation of their power and meaning. So that's what I'm hoping to introduce you to. So I just have to check about the sound because I wanted to take a step back now to put it into a worldly context first. And so I'm going to bring in Eurovision because I'm Australian and Australians love Eurovision. We're just totally nuts over Eurovision, and I have been for decades and decades. So it's just by happenstance that this particular one is from the Ukraine, from Ukraine, sorry. And so to pay attention to the sign language, singing with the body, listening with our eyes. So that's the first one, folks. And I had no idea that it was going to be, I've had that clip up there for a couple of years now, that it was going to be so topical today. But it's quite, you know, there's a style, American Sign Language, you know, there's style whether you're signing for rap, whether you're signing for heavy metal, whether you're signing for Eurovision, you embody the whole flavor of the music in with it. The amazing thing about sign language, of course, is that you can have a whole lot of people speaking at once, simultaneously, and it's like a dance or a concert. It's not like everybody's talking over each other. In fact, they're all talking together. So that also gives us an idea of what happens in puja when we're practicing in a group. Anyway, so that's the first Eurovision one. Here's the second Eurovision one. I'll just get it up to the next. Okay. The heartthrob. And let me just check where we're going to start from. Okie dokie. So again, this is where the sign language is more of a heartthrob than the main dude. What if I'm the only hero left? You better fire off your gun once and forever. He said, go dry your eyes and live your life like there is no tomorrow, son, and tell the others to
Go sing it like a hummingbird, the greatest anthem ever heard. We are the heroes of our time, but we're dancing with the demons in our minds.
Oh. So you get the idea with Darling Mons as well, and I really like his sign language interpreter so much more. I have one more to show you as well. So these ones, sign language, it's kind of like the, speaking with our body. But there's also, of course, this is where dance comes into it as well. So dance, the language of samsara, and I wanted to start at whereabouts here. So you kind of get the idea of this one now, don't you? That it really is an absolutely brilliant portrait of samsara. All the passion, all the pain, and so beautifully presented. And actually the mudras are kind of similar to tantric mudras, but there's a difference. Because this one, the way that the mudras go, it's all about going the outside. It is like dancing with the dragon, but it is about the passion and pain of life, like the deep human condition. Whereas the tantric mudras, they're not about that, they're about bliss and bodhicitta. So they're like an enlightened experience, a completely transformed experience. But what we're doing when we're using the mudras is harnessing the chi, just like she is. You can see how she's actually working with those energies and beautifully expressing it. And so when we do those mudras, that's what we're doing. It's this feedback between the body and mind becoming completely synchronized and harmonious, and each lifting it up. The body supporting the mind and the mind supporting the body. So what makes the difference between the language of samsara, even if it is beautiful, and the language of Buddhism, of nirvana, of enlightenment? The motivation primary, to be an altruistic motivation, a motivation of bodhicitta, and the view arising out of emptiness. So I remember Rinpoche often saying with samsara, you know, it's okay to enjoy yourself in samsara, but you've got to treat samsara like licking honey off a razor's edge. Very, very carefully. And that's kind of like what that flamenco dancing tells us. So the last little video I wanted to show you is now the language of the Sambhogakaya. Forget samsara. Here's Rinpoche in Retiro Park in Spain. So the guy has his headphones on, just walking around, dancing. And Rinpoche spontaneously teaching to the level of the student, so generous. Lifting the guy up. Here we are here now, lifting him up. So, I'm not sure if you see that. There's a couple of those. I asked Venerable Holly for them, because they just blew my mind. So amazing. And Rinpoche is so spontaneously generous and kind to just, you know, not even nothing planned, just dancing with this guy. And naturally, the way Rinpoche is dancing is with the mudras, just naturally, just like that other lady was naturally dancing with the flamenco. So Rinpoche is so much, he's in samsara, but not of samsara. Here with us, you know, for us, but not of samsara, just spontaneously manifesting this Sambhogakaya aspect. So mudras are not separate from the world. Mudras actually express the world. They express our worldview. But when we do the mudras in a retreat, in a meditation, in a puja, because we're doing them from the point of view of the deity, the point of view of the Buddha, then they're expressing the worldview of a Buddha, not an ordinary worldview. And that's why they're transformative, because we kind of do them in the ordinary world, but what they're expressing is the whole enlightened experience. And that's what transforms us. So when we keep in mind Rinpoche's beautiful dancing and mudras, then when we see these images of the offering goddesses, that's what they're doing. They're dancing like the flamenco dancing, or like Rinpoche. And generally in the tantric practices, when the goddesses have 2 arms, that's the lower tantra. When the goddesses in highest yoga tantra, they have 4 arms. And so that's why, one of the reasons why the mudras change in each practice, because sometimes they're just showing the top pair of arms of the deity. Each emblem differs according to the tantric level, you know, whether the flowers are shown as a fully bloomed flower or lotus, or whether they're shown as a bud. And the mudras can also differ according to which tantric family. So like, for instance, Nyungne practice is in the lotus family, so all of the mudras kind of feature various forms of lotuses and flowers within those hand gestures. So it's really amazing, and I love this picture of the offering goddesses here, that the Buddha emanates in so many different ways. So the emanation body, the Nirmanakaya, the historical Buddha, that's one way of the Buddha emanating. You have the emanation of the Buddha showing the 12 deeds. That's an emanation in the supreme emanation of a Buddha, showing the 12 deeds in whatever world system. You have human emanations like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, that, you know, that are ones that we can relate to. And the Buddhas also emanate as artisans, because art is what moves us. Paintings and music and dance, they're often beyond concepts, and they impart wisdom. So all of this, all of the arts are combined in tantric practice. So we harness all of our natural human creativity on the path to enlightenment. So one of the ways that the Buddha is said to emanate is also as artisans, to capture and move the hearts of human beings. So before we go into the actual mudras and the gestures and things, a little bit about that, are there any questions or comments that we have so far? Anything at all?
Feel free to write them in the chat if you wanted to read them out loud, or just raise your hand and ask. Tara does have one.
I guess I'm
good.
clapping. Didn't mean to clap. I was just going to ask, I guess I am unfamiliar with mudras in this sense, the way that they're being described then, they're used as a story or for a point, or
Yes, like
a
they're
ritual.
used as
It's a ritual during for a certain thing.
they're used as a language. They're an enlightened language, and it's a language of the body. So they seal our practice with the seal of the wisdom realizing emptiness, and also embodying it. So
it's an expression, like, I mean, it's something you would do, it's not meditation, but
it is meditation.
It is a meditation.
It's a meditation. Yep.
Huh.
Not separate from meditation at all. Because when we meditate, it's not just our mind that's meditating. Because, our meditation is grounded in our body, our brain synapses, our physiology, the way we're sitting, our energy level, all of that profoundly affects our meditation. So we're not in the formless realms. We're here in the desire realm, embodied. And so also physically, it's a form of meditation.
Okay, thank you.
Good point. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's actually one of the really big things that we kind of miss out as Westerners, that we think, oh, meditation means sitting quietly, not saying anything. That's just one form of meditation. A puja is a meditation, and doing the whole combining body, speech, and mind like this with the mudras is a meditation. Yeah.
Diana, did you have a question?
Diana.
Oh, yes, I did have a question that I was saving up to ask later, but in case I had to disappear. In some of the sadhanas, you see the symbols down the left-hand side of the page. Are all of those mudras, or are some of them, for instance, the one with the praying hands, is that one for everybody, or is that specific for people with impairments?
Yes, it all depends. So I've actually got one a little bit later on with those lovely little symbols that are there. So some of the mudras are general ones, but the ones to do with tantric offerings, you can only do if you have permission to bless and generate and offer the tantric offerings, or permission to use the bell and dodgy. So it's a bit of a mix, and it depends what practice it is. So when you get down to it, in a puja, there might be some that you can do and some that you can't do. And sometimes the more you get down to it, the more confused you can get. So I'm constantly asking my lamas about this to clarify these points. So we'll hopefully, as we go through, Diana, it might become a little clearer. I hope.
Thank you.
Is it better to err on the side of not doing them?
Yes, it is.
If you're uncertain.
Yes, until you know what you're doing and why, better not to do them.
Okay.
Yeah. But hopefully by the end of today, you'll know where you fall in along the spectrum there. So the mudras, so why the mudras change is because the gestures change, because the practice is changing, the context is changing, and so it reflects that. Also because there are different traditions in different monasteries. Gyume Tantric College and Gyudo Tantric College, they have different tunes and they have different mudras. And then the ways that each of the, the master then, transmits to the disciple it's different in each of the lineages. So it's really good, just like Lama Lundrup said, to really pay attention to Lama Zopa Rinpoche's mudras, because we're in this, the FPMT, and Lama Zopa Rinpoche is our guru, and is a superlative tantric practitioner, and so he really imparts so much with his mudras. So let's have a look. We touched briefly on the offering bowls a couple of weeks ago. So here we're back again with the tantric offerings. So the tantric offerings, they're offered in a puja, but it's not these little things in the bowls that are offered. These are just like physical placeholders. These are a physical basis for what we're offering, which is huge and skies filled. But it's just a way of grounding it in a physical form, so that we actually create some merit of offering things so that in the future we have those things to offer. So each of these bowls represents a different thing. And so generally there's the two waters, water for drinking and water for washing the feet. Flowers, incense. So this is actually a whole lot of incense sticks upright, bound up with colored cotton to represent the 5 wisdoms, the colors of the 5 wisdoms. Light, perfume, so some perfume in a bottle here, but you can also put saffron in the water. Food, it can be anything delicious that's not going to be just attacked by the insects. Here's a little type of kind of permanent tauma. And then music. So you can't really have a bowl of music necessarily, but if you wanted to have a bowl, then you usually put a conch shell, but you usually actually put it sitting upright, not laid flat like that. But you don't necessarily have to have that bowl of music there. So the tantric offerings, when they're generated, so you have the physical basis, and then in the sadhana or the puja, the person who has the initiation and therefore has permission to arise as the deity, they generate and bless the offerings. You can only do that if you've had the initiation. But then once the offerings are generated and blessed, and this is why everybody can come to a puja, once they're generated and blessed, then everybody can offer them. Whether we have the initiation or not, that's okay. Everyone can think that we're making the offering because it's already been generated and blessed by a deity, by the person with the initiation. So that's really wonderful. That's why pujas can be family affairs and everybody can come along and join in at the level that they can. So here we have, you know, some sign language, the mudras of the ordinary world, secular mudras, sign language or mudras to indicate happy, love, or angry, sad, bored, hungry, all of these things. So, you know, a very complex language. In fact, you know, we can express infinity with the language that comes from our hands. Infinite possibilities, just like an alphabet. And I've got to say, one of my very best experiences with sign language was when His Holiness the Dalai Lama was teaching, and they had an Auslan interpreter on the side of the stage, and watching their hands as they're talking about emptiness and dependent arising and bodhicitta and equanimity and the 4 immeasurables and what all of those gestures were, it was like the most extraordinary dance I've ever seen. I couldn't take my eyes off them, so I was looking at the hand mudras and also listening to the teaching, and it was extraordinary. But then we have the mudras that represent these tantric offerings. So, you know, the water for drinking, hands like holding water. Water for washing is often represents drawing a lotus flower over a bowl of water to wash the feet. Flowers, incense, aloke here, you can see that, like the little wick of the light with the thumbs. So various different mudras for various different occasions. So what they actually mean, though, when we have those mudras and we have those offerings, remember, minimum in Tantra, there are 2 levels of meaning. Actually, there's 4 or there's 6 or there's up to 32 levels of meaning. So the very, very, very basic is the 2 levels, which is the interpretive and the definitive. So the interpretive is what we kind of think of as the apparent meaning. So when we're offering trees and flowers and incense and perfume, we're offering flowers and incense and perfume. And we are actually imagining that we're offering those things. But that's just the interpretive level. The definitive level, what we're offering, the symbolism, the meaning, that's what we're offering, not the stuff, but the meaning. So when we offer water, it's the clarity of the mind, purifying ignorance, the cooling water that cools down the disturbing emotions. When we offer flowers, it's like the blossoming of your virtues. Spontaneous manifestation of virtues. When you offer incense or perfume, it's morality, the sweet smell of your ethics. Of course, when we offer light, it's illumination is what we're offering. We're not offering a cruddy old candle. We're offering illumination in the minds of all sentient beings. So we're offering wisdom. Food, spiritual nourishment. Really important. Yummy. Spiritual nourishment is yummy. It's not a drag. Oh my God, I got to study more. It's really delicious and you just want more and more. And music, when you offer music, it's awakening to the Dharma. So the definitive meaning, you know, that's got the real depth in it. So a little bit more then about actually why we have to use our body. And oh, I've got one more video to show you. Here we go. So it's just about a minute and a half. I'm not going to play the whole thing, so don't worry. But here we go. So this is from the Japanese point and call.
Every visitor to Japan notices the unique way railway staff are always pointing and calling. It's actually a highly effective safety technique developed here in Japan. Physical movements and vocalizations are a proven way to increase concentration and reduce errors when performing any task. Pointing and calling.
So I'm not sure if you've heard about point and call, but it's really extraordinary. And so the combining body, speech, and mind like that. So you focus your mind on the object, you say what you're going to do or what's happened, like the platform is clear, the platform is clear. And so you're focusing your attention, you're pointing and you're saying. And so what happens, of course, is that if one of those things is not true, if the platform is not clear and you're saying it's clear, you get cognitive dissonance. It doesn't sit right. And so you notice. And so what happens, of course, normally when we get used to doing a job, we stop noticing. We stop noticing anything. And that's why errors creep in, because it just goes on to autopilot. And we're not bringing full awareness, body, speech, and mind together. So by doing this point and call system in Japan, of course, they do it so nicely because they wear white gloves. They use it in pharmacies when they dispense medicine, point and call, say what they're dispensing as they're dispensing it and giving it to you. And so it reduced errors of giving people the wrong medicine by like 85%. That's a huge reduction. It reduced accidents on the railways by 85%. It's just extraordinary and such an easy way to do it, actually, when you think about it. So when we are offering mudras, when we're doing mudras, we're doing the same thing. We're point and calling. That's exactly what we're doing. So the mudra is the pointing, the physically manifesting it. And because where our body goes, our mind goes. The calling is like the speech, the mantra, the saying, whatever the prayer it is. And because we're saying what we're doing, that's what we're imagining. That brings the world into existence by saying it. And samadhi, that's the concentration, focusing our mind. So that reduces errors. It reduces errors of inherent existence. It reduces errors of falling into an ordinary view. You know, and if we forget one of those things, the pointing or the calling, if we forget to say the thing or we forget to do the mudra, immediately we're aware. It's not like we have to go, oh, am I still doing the mudras? No, we immediately know. So it's very easy to concentrate. So on a really profound tantric level, then, you know, the mudra, it's actually a gesture that seals with the wisdom realizing emptiness, because it's unifying the skillful means and the wisdom together in one thing simultaneously. That's the unique characteristic of Tantra. The concentration is actually really remembering emptiness the whole time. That's our context. So our activities are not tainted by worldly concerns. And the mantra, the thing that we're saying, the chant, who we're offering to, what the formula it is, you know, that's kind of reminds us. So, you know, there is a physiological, neurological basis to this that's incredibly strong. And so tantric practice has harnessed that. One more video to show you, this one from the lovely Geshe Tenzin Zopa. So you get an idea here of the mudras themselves. So someone up at Chenrezig Institute asked Geshe to show.
Thank you.
So you can see his beautiful tamed energies, can't you, with his hands? So not just tamed, but exquisite. So you click, the goddesses go out, you do the mudra, Aloke, the light, and the goddesses come back. So this is like a short version of these mudras. So just like there are long tunes and short tunes, elaborate tunes with all the trills and the really fast ones, the workaday ones to get you through. So the same with the mudras. There are long mudras with flourishes, or there are very simple contained ones. And it really depends on the practice and the lama and the lineage. But I mean, you know, seeing Geshe do those mudras like that, you know, someone who's just effortlessly harnessed those energies and that kind of expression. So the sequence, the sequence, so that you know when people are doing it, I thought I could show you just to kind of, so it's not such a mystery. And one of the things, if you do have an initiation and therefore the permission to use a bell and dorji, when you pick them up, you've got to pick them up without clanging. No clang, clang, clang. That's like one of the things, a real rookie mistake. And normally we clang because we've forgotten this is a meditation. So we just think it's just stuff to hold. But actually when you pick up the bell and dorji, what you're doing is you're picking up, you're holding fast to wisdom and compassion. So the sequence, the sending out the goddesses from the heart. So the deity sends out the goddesses from the heart. So if you don't have the initiation and you think the goddesses come out from the heart of the deity, then there's this mudra, which is like the jewel in the lotus. And so this one, you kind of think it's like how you beautifully handle bodhicitta, very gently. And then you bring the offering out from the heart. So agam, water for drinking. And in your mind, countless offerings go out. And then you bring the goddesses back in again. And then start the sequence again. And when you're learning these mudras, and when you first start, you might find that that your hands like go off all over the place and your mudras all over the place and everything clangs. And I kind of liken it to when you first start to learn to drive. And so I learned to drive when I was quite old, like old and scared instead of young and stupid. And so, you know, I'd be driving and I'd go, oh, I'm going over here, whoop, over here. And so the car's going like this, and the poor driver instructor's holding his head in his hands. But I was trying to get to like real, like grown-ups, they drive like this, just tiny little micro movements to keep the car straight. So this is how we are with mudras when we first start. We're just all over the show because our energies are all over the show, and we're overcompensating and we don't know what we're doing. So, oh, too much here, too much there. And it's hard to bring your energies in. But as you do, you feel it, and you feel your mind becoming tamed. You feel it working as a meditation. So all of the mudras are done at pretty much at the level of the heart, because that's what we're trying to do, bring all of our energies into the central channel. And so where our focus is, where our physical energy goes, then everything goes to that heart level. Okay, so one other thing then for the, oh, sorry, here we are, the tantric offerings. So there's a couple of ways that we can imagine, and I found this picture online somewhere and I do not know where, but it's all these wonderful offering goddesses. I think they're making the auspicious offerings, but you can kind of get an idea of the goddesses flowing through space. You can actually have one goddess that goes around to everybody and makes the offering, or you can have countless goddesses go out, each one individually offering to the merit field. The offerings are blessed by samadhi, mantra, and mudra. So this is like the tantric version of the 3 higher trainings. So just like I was talking before, samadhi or concentration, single pointed concentration. The mantra is like the pointing and calling. And for the 3 higher trainings, it's ethics. Because the practice of mantra is being able to perfectly keep your vows. And the mudra, that's wisdom. You seal it with wisdom. So it's not sealing with a physical action, but the physical action shows sealing with wisdom. So right here, many times in the puja, you'll hear blessed by samadhi, mantra, and mudra. And that's because these tantric offerings are not ordinary offerings. Because they're blessed by samadhi, mantra, and mudra, the 3 higher trainings in the context of Tantra, then they turn into tantric offerings. They're special. They're completely different from ordinary ones. So the tantric offerings, you'll also hear in the puja, and in Tara puja, we hear it again and again, 4 times, because we do 4 lots of offerings. They appear as the individual offering substances. So they appear as lights and incense and perfumes. And I have really nice appearances, like I have skies of chandeliers, and I have lots of incredible perfume bottles, and I have huge medieval feasts of food. So they appear as the offering substances, but they're made of light. They're not heavy. They're not going to rot and go off if you don't keep them in the fridge. The chandeliers, the skies of chandeliers, they don't need electricity plugs to be plugged into. They just naturally light, all of those things. But they have this beautiful appearance. They're in the nature of emptiness, and that's why we imagine them as made of light, because anything that's made of light, it's to remind us they're in the nature of emptiness. So because it's so difficult to imagine emptiness, light is like a placeholder or a reminder for us. Emptiness, not inherently existent. So they're made of light in the nature of emptiness. And their function, and this is why tantric offerings are different. Their function, it's only one thing: to bestow uncontaminated great bliss. So the function of ordinary food is just to fill us up, isn't it? And to help us ambulate our body around and do stuff. The function of light is to light a room so we don't fall over, but they're ordinary things. But these are extraordinary. So the function of the tantric offerings is to bestow uncontaminated great bliss. So not just changeable happiness, suffering, but uncontaminated bliss. So that's the bliss in the enlightened minds, the bliss that arises from wisdom realizing emptiness. So they're really quite something, aren't they? Before we go on any more, any other questions or comments before we get into the nitty-gritty of each of the tantric implements? Anything at all? No? All good? Sure? Okie dokie. So that kind of sets the scene. Now let's have a look at what these implements are. So just at least if you go to a puja, you'll know what it is, what on earth are they doing, and what it's about. And you won't be foolhardy and kind of just, you know, race in and, you know, not know what you're doing. So let's have a look at the setting up your ritual table. So we have a photo here and also a line drawing. So when you set up your ritual table for a retreat or a puja, you generally set up your ritual implements in the top right-hand corner of your table. And you set them up really nicely. Put them on a nice cloth so they're not clanging on the table. And then which ones that you have will depend on what initiation you have and what practice you're doing. But generally, when you come along, what everybody will have is a mala, the rosary. We'll all have a rosary there, and everybody can have a rosary, a mala, to use, and it's really lovely to use one because, again, it helps us to focus. It helps us to integrate the practice. So definitely the mala goes on there. Then for if you have a lower tantra initiation, so Great Chenrezig, a Medicine Buddha, Tara, Manjushri, White Tara, they're generally the lower tantra initiations. Then you have permission to use a bell and dorji. And so then you put those on your table. And you put them together and you put the dorji on the left and the bell on the right. But actually when you go to pick them up, the dorji ends up in your right hand and the bell in the left. So they cross over. So there's a significance to this because what that shows is that what they represent, wisdom and compassion, they're always together. Wisdom and compassion combined, never apart. So that when you pick them up, you have to cross your hands over to be able to pick them up. So that reminds us without having to use words. And what the bell and the dorji represent is wisdom and compassion. So the bell, the wisdom, the dorji, compassion or skillful means. And when we pick them up, we're literally, what we're doing is we're saying, I'm making this offering by holding fast to wisdom and compassion. That's exactly what we're doing, and we are embodying that. I'm making these tantric offerings by holding fast to wisdom and compassion. And then, if it's a highest yoga tantra practice, then you have the permission to use the damaru, the drum, the little drum here. And if it's a mother tantra highest yoga practice, you have a commitment to use the damaru. Then also there is here a skull cup. You can see it here. It doesn't look like a skull cup, but we'll have a few more pictures coming up. This is called the inner offering. So Bell and Dorji, holding fast to wisdom and method, wisdom and compassion. The Damaru, the drum, is to invite or to connect with the Tumo fire, the wisdom, to fan the Tumo fire. The Kapala, the inner offering in the skull, and the Mala, our Mala is Vajra, protection. So we remember that from the mandala offering. So we've got the bell and the Dorji. Pick it up without clanging. And so then whatever mudras that you do, you hold, you're making those offerings, holding fast to wisdom and compassion. And same when you put it down without clanging. So Geshe Zopa told us this story that in Tantric college, you know, if you picked up your bell and you clanged, you were expelled. You couldn't just have a bad day. That was it. Because that showed incredible disrespect to the bell and Dorji. So it's like so honored to be able to hold fast to wisdom and compassion, to have this method. So it's a way of generating respect and holding respect, and that way we tame our mind. So it's a really it's a good thing for us white honkies to pay attention to, because I've been at so many pujas where it's just clang, 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 and it's really disrespectful, and it's because people are just not paying attention and don't know. So, and then even when you're doing the mudras, you can do it so that the bell, as you're moving it around, it never clangs from one side to the other. You just move your hands around really nicely so that there's no noise. And then with the inner offering, so this is my inner offering, which is in a little jam jar, right? So it was quite an epic journey to get these jam jars, because, you know, to have ones with a good seal and they're not too big or anything. So a few years ago, before COVID, when I was in Europe, and I managed to get to Amsterdam and to Institute Vajrayogini in France and a couple of other places. And I also went on one of these ridiculously expensive cruises. And in the cruise, they had every morning little jam pots with your croissants that the butler would bring in. Morning, Miss Miffy. Morning, Miss Miffy. Here's my croissants on my. So anyway. So when I was coming home through customs, they're picking up my carry-on luggage going, oh my God, what's in this? It's really heavy. And I'm saying, cheese and jam. And they're like, what? So then they open it up, and I've bought like a huge hunk of cheese from somewhere. And then I've got 24 pots of jam and a little trumpet that I bought for my father in a market. So it's absolutely like way over the limit for carry-on luggage, but I carried home 24 pots of jam in these really excellent little bottles for the inner offering. So if you have had a highest yoga tantra initiation, you have a commitment to carry these with you all the time. So, you know, if you do, and you should be able to travel with them. And at the very minimum, you have a little picture of all of the implements. And so, sorry, I am clanging now. It's very bad. So even when you're offering the inner offering, and Geshe Zopa does it so nicely, you just turn your hand around in this beautiful curvy way. So it actually helps you to make the offerings nicely. So the tingsha are not a ritual implement in terms of the tantric practices. So I think I don't know anything about the use of the tingsha. That's the little tiny symbols. I've just heard them used in meditation very nicely, but I haven't heard of any practices where they're used. So I really don't know. So let's have a little look at the bell. And just to give you a bit of an idea of the meaning of the bell. So you never have you have bell and dorji together all the time. They go together. The bell, because it has a dorji on the top, it's okay if you just have a bell by itself. but you never have a dorji by itself, because it's not Buddhist. Because Buddhism is supported by wisdom, so that's the bell. So the general meaning, when you hold the dorji in the right hand, it symbolizes method, bodhicitta, the masculine principle, or great bliss. The bell, you hold it in the left hand, and that symbolizes wisdom, emptiness, the feminine principle. And you have to hold the two together and they become integrated. So on the bell, there is the face of the Buddha, Prajnaparamita, so the Buddha of wisdom. So when you put the bell down, you make sure that you turn it so that the face is facing you. And I asked Geshe-la, is it okay if you, when you're holding the bell, if your thumb covers up the face? He said, don't worry, it's just at least when you put the bell down to mindfully turn it so that the face is facing you. The Buddhist dorji is closed at the top. The Hindu one is open. It looks a lot more like Neptune's trident, but there is some story, and I'm sorry I can't remember it, where the Buddha closed the prongs of it up, and so the Buddhist dorji is closed like this. So there are layers of all sorts of things, dorjis and beautiful garlands of pearls and flowers. There are the petals, the 8 petals here represent the 8 bodhisattvas. There's a huge amount of meaning in there. And also inside the bell, if you have a look on the inside, there's often either a lotus or a star. So you'll have a look and there'll either be a star like a Vajrayogini star or a lotus on the inside of the bell. And the other thing is, often when the bells come, the tongue is just attached with string. And I don't know why they do it that way, because just with the string it'll just rot off in Queensland, but when you try and ring it, the bell, the tongue of the bell just goes around and around and around and around, and you can't have any control of it whatsoever. So the first thing you've got to do is replace that string with metal wire. And the easiest way to do it is to just get a paper clip and just thread it through and kind of bend it around, and it'll give you much more control over when you ring the bell, that the tongue will actually go backwards and forwards instead of just go all around the place. So that's just, you know, like a practical thing, because when you're going to get one, you might think, oh my God, this is so tricky. And then the tongue just hangs down like maybe ½ centimeter from outside the edge of the bell. And then the way that you're supposed to ring the bell, of course you hold the bell and dorji at the same time, and you ring the bell at the level of the heart. So you might find that you start ringing it way out here. No. You've got to bring your hands back. I find I have to bring my hands back all the time. So when you're just using bell and dorji, actually the bell, it's more at the solar plexus level. When you're using bell, dorji and damaru, then you move the bell up to the heart and the damaru at the navel. But all of it is in this axis of along the central channel. And when you ring the bell, you do it really nicely. And then you finish with a trill. You don't let it ring out, but you finish with a little trill. And you ring it. So you're not scaring everybody away. You're not going ding-ling-ling-ling like an alarm. You're ringing really nicely. And then end with a trill. And so I think also in some of the Hindu rituals, they ring the bell very fast. So that's not the Buddhist way. The Buddhist way is to ring it much slower. And actually, when you're doing the tantric offerings, then you're offering music. And so you offer it really nicely as music. But when we do ring the bell, for instance, doing the Vajrasattva mantra, so at the end of puja, you ring the bell whilst we're saying the Vajrasattva mantra. when we do Haruka Vajrasattva Tsog, we recite the 100-syllable mantra and ring the bell. That's a meditation on emptiness. So it's not about offering music in that instance. It's about meditating on emptiness. And so the sound of the bell is a way of doing that meditation. And it's incredibly profound when you experience that sound and how it's a dependent arising, and also how sound expands your awareness as well. It's a really powerful meditation. So doing the 100-syllable mantra nicely and slowly whilst ringing the bell is that really focused meditation on emptiness. So that's the bell. Now let's have a little look at the dorji. So I did mention in the class beforehand about how dorjis are, let's see, hang on a second, they look like this, so they look like metal, but actually what they are is wisdoms, and thunderbolt wisdoms. So these things here are like, you know, in the cartoons when they draw just a lightning strike, that kind of zigzag. So this is that version, a little bit more sophisticated version. And like I said, this is just my opinion. They're like Tesla coils, but Tesla coils is unharnessed energy. But actually the dorji is perfectly harnessed method energy. So the Vajra, or dorji in Tibetan, Vajra in Sanskrit, diamond thunderbolt. So it represents the indestructible purity of the mind. The thunderbolt, the energy, the 5 prongs, 4 on the outside and 1 in the middle, represent the 5 wisdoms. And to think that they're not solid or heavy, but they are made of light. And they're a power object, just like how Zeus holds the the lightning bolt, you know. So this is the power of method and bodhicitta that Buddhas, tantric Buddhas, wield. This power, perfectly controlled. Then we have the Damaru. So this is the third tantric implement. And so the Damaru, here you'll see a picture, and I have one here I'll show you in a moment. But they usually have this kind of blue-green leather colored skin. And the Damaru it's almost like a curved diamond shape. A drum on either side with a tail of the 5 wisdoms. So Damarus are traditionally made from a male and a female skull top put together. And the reason why the skin is green is because it's cured with copper and other mineral salts, giving it that green color. So of course nowadays they're just painted green, but that's where it came from. And the 2 dongas or beaters, whatever they are, often have this knitted kind of various colored circles of the knitted little caps that the beaters have, and they represent 2 eyeballs. So these 2 sides mean unification of method and wisdom. So unification of the path and the result, the unification of father and mother. So unification. So the Damaru is only used in highest yoga tantra. Sometimes I think in protector prayers too, when there is the drum, but the actual method of using the Damaru is for a highest yoga tantra practice. And so it's best that you have a highest yoga tantra initiation before you incorporate using the Damaru. And so what it does is it's to draw the dakinis and to, again, harness all those subtle energies and winds and drops in your body, in your tantric body, your subtle nervous system that is there abiding within this coarse body. So when you play the the Damaru, the bell, and dorji. Of course, you still hold the bell and dorji. You never put them down because they're unified together. And so the way to play the Damaru, Geshe Zopa showed us, it's a little bit like when you do Itsy Bitsy Spider and you twist your fingers like this. So that's how they learned how to do it. So I'm not very good at it, but. And also my dongas I've wound around with wool because it's too loud for the Zoom and it just blows out the Zoom microphone, so you can't see the beautiful eyeballs. So I had them with cotton wool and stuff for a while and looked a bit too ridiculous, so I had to get red. So you have the bell, you move up to the heart area, and the Damaru at the navel, and end with a trill. And then the way that Geshe Zopa has showed us, for instance, in when you're doing the Tsog offering and you go and you do this amazing thing with the Damaru coming up and the tail it's really fantastic. And if you can synchronize it, it does something to you. It does something to you when you embody this practice. It changes your mind. It's like it turns your mind inside out. So I'm not teaching you how to do it. I'm just kind of trying to point out a couple of things, at least so you know what's going on, and you can also know what difficulties I've had in trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? And of course I have the other implement, which is the mouse. So I've got inner offering, bell, dorji, Damaru, and mouse. All in a row on my computer there. So let's see. Uval has a question. Why does Lord Vajrasattva hold the bell at the hip? I do not know, but I can bet you there's a reason for it. And it might be to do with how he encompasses holding the mother wisdom. I'm not sure. So that would be if you do the Vajrasattva, Haruka Vajrasattva retreat, it would be there in the commentaries or in the description of the meaning of the embrace and all of the various implements and the the 6 perfection adornments and all of those things. I'm not sure. I'm sure I've heard and I have not remembered. So sorry. Okay, Claudia, I find it difficult to always carry the dorji and bell. Oh yes, that's right. And so acquired the little tiny counters for the mala that have the mini dorji and bell. So yes, that's a good one. You can carry a mini dorji and bell like that as a placeholder. That is fine to do. Also, when you have the commitment to carry those things and the many other implements, usually at the initiation when they give you the booklet with your vows and your 6-session Guru Yoga, they also give you a little wallet-sized card with a picture of all the implements and everything there. So you can carry that in a very respectful, safe place in your wallet as well. That's also permissible. Or you can put it all out there on the table and take a photo on your phone. So that's the Damaru, but there's another drum, and I've included this in here just because you could get confused about it, and that's the churd drum. So the churd drum is bigger. It's much bigger. You know, it's like 3-4 times bigger than the little Damaru. And the churd drum is round. Not like the shape of the diamond kind of shape like a skull cup, but it's round. And it's made out of acacia wood. So it's non-toxic, doesn't possess any thorns or any other negative attributes whatsoever. And the churd practice it's a specific practice that you need, a special initiation for. And here's this extraordinary photograph of Lama Zopa Rinpoche doing churd practice. So this one, you hold the churd drum, you can see it's much bigger, and you hold it up and out on the right hand side, and you play it very slowly, like the rhythm of a very slowed down heartbeat. So the churd practice, cutting off the ego, is a profound and extraordinary practice. and it's a practice associated with the dakinis, and it is a secret practice. So you do it in secret, and generally you go off and do it in cemeteries, or the morgue, or places where we're normally really scared, to cut off that ego, to cut off that self-cherishing and self-grasping. So it's not something that you do in public, and it's not something that you show off about. So if you ever see anyone sitting there at a retreat in teachings in the break, just casually doing the churd practice and singing the extraordinarily beautiful Dakini tunes, you can recognize it as they are overwhelmed by spiritual materialism, and they're just showing off, and they're not cutting their ego off at all. They're tying it on. So, be aware of these things. Don't be too foolhardy about it. It's about slaying the ego. Now what else? Then we have the last one, the inner offering. Oh my gosh. So the inner offering, and I found a contemporary image of this, which is pretty extraordinary as well. And the way that the inner offering is arranged is also different for different practices. So it's not a standard across the board thing. But what the inner offering is about, it comes into play in highest yoga tantra practice, HYT, highest yoga tantra. And the inner offering is a practice similar to alchemy. So we're kind of familiar with alchemy, transforming base, disgusting substances into gold. So this was the main task of the philosophers, to find the philosopher's stone, about transforming base metals like lead and disgusting toxic things into gold, and the transformation. And so all of the recipes and the practices that the alchemists wrote were in code, very similar to what's coded in tantric practice. You had to understand the meaning. And so they were this kind of symbolic way of describing the inner transformation that happens. So what we're doing is we're transforming our impure aggregates, our contaminated, impure, body, speech, and mind, that are subject to decay and sickness and rot, and that are the cause us to create so much negativity, that are the basis of all sufferings, all of our disturbing emotions, everything that's kind of like base and disgusting. Our starting point, we have problems. That's why we're here, because we don't want them anymore. And through this process of transformation, samadhi, mantra, and mudra, we transform these impure aggregates into the rainbow body of a Buddha. And so that whole practice is encapsulated in this inner offering practice. And similar to when we're building the mandala, where there is a fire mandala and a wind mandala, and these elemental forces of the universe coalesce in this container of our perfect human rebirth, and transform from all these base, disgusting things into here, the swirling rainbow body of a Buddha. So, that's what this little jar here represents. And so when you're doing the practice, it's nice to, in the puja, to not rush through it, to actually take a moment to do this transformation practice. And so in Guru Puja, then part of a similar kind of thing, when we offer Bala and Madana, the otherwise known, the basis of the substance, the meat and the alcohol. So in Guru Puja, Rinpoche has made a little note in there that you can't substitute the meat and alcohol for cheese and juice. No, because it's completely misunderstanding what this is about. What we're actually doing is we're transforming base, disgusting things, meat and alcohol, into the rainbow body of a Buddha. So those things are supposed to be disgusting and we transform them through the practice, through the Om Ah Hum and the profound meditation that comes from that, into bliss and emptiness, and the Tsog, and that's what we offer. So there is this, this theme of incredible transformation in there. Questions, comments, anything at all? Tara, you look like you've got one.
No,
not
all
yet.
good. It is new to me today. So all of this is new. So
Yes,
it's
I'm
good.
wondering, like, how many of you have actually even been to a Guru Puja before? Yes, no?
Well,
I have-
yesterday was my first.
Oh,
Me
right,
too.
okay.
Yeah.
Diana.
And I was wondering, because I'm at the start of everything. Do I buy a Bell and Dorji now, or do I wait?
Just wait. So
Okay.
wait. Come along to all the pujas that you can and keep your eyes open and really see what are they doing? What do they look like they're doing? But what are they doing? And when we see Rinpoche at puja, or when the Geshis lead the puja, like, what are they actually doing here? And if you've got the pujas, don't even bother like trying to keep up singing the Tibetan, for instance. Just kind of read the English as you're going through, and you get the incredible poetry. It is like this alchemist kind of story in there, as well as the entire Lam Rim is usually in all of these practices. It's all there. And so just keep your eyes open, and at least with this you'll recognize, oh, I know, I've heard about that. I know there's something going on there, instead of just some weird shamanistic thing, and then Westerners go, oh, okay, I've got to get the set. So you don't have to get the set. No. So then one day when you've completed discovering Buddhism, and you're like absolutely dead set, yes, I'm the Buddhist path is the exact right one for me, and I cannot bear the suffering of sentient beings anymore, and I absolutely positively have to become enlightened quickly, what can I do? Then maybe an initiation will come along, and you'll be able to take an initiation, and then you'll be right for the initiation. And then when you have that initiation, then you can get a Bell and Dorji.
Okay.
You can, if you're really enthused, get a Bell and Dorji and put them on your altar. On the side where you'd put the stupa, you can also have, instead you can have the bell there, because it represents the wisdom, the Buddha's wisdom. So you can have one there on your altar until you're permitted to use it. That's also okay. You can do that. The inner offering, Yuval, so what's actually in here is usually some form of alcohol, and then the inner offering pill. So the inner offering pill is about 3-4 millimeters big, kind of black pill. So I didn't know what an inner offering pill was, and many years ago I asked Geshe Tashi Sering, who is here, when you come back from India next, can you bring us back some inner offering pills? And he just laughed and just about fell off his seat, and he said, oh, what, from the inner offering pill shop? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of like the equivalent of me kind of asking, hey, Geshe, can you bring me back a Harry Potter broomstick? And it's like, oh, what, from the Harry Potter wizard's shop? Like, like they're just down the road there. No way, man. So they're very, very precious pills, and they have like multiples of precious elements, precious stones, trace elements, all sorts of things, homeopathic, like you name it, it's all in there as a basis. And then they're blessed by many lamas for many days. So more than making a Harry Potter broomstick, like, forget about that. That's nothing, the inner offering pill. And so then that goes into the little bit of alcohol in your jar. So you can also put it, sometimes they put it with tea, black tea, but I did that once in Queensland, and the entire thing went moldy within a few days. So generally it goes into alcohol so that it doesn't go off. So the inner offering, then you are supposed to have when you have your first highest yoga tantra initiation. Before that, then you don't need to. So all of this about bell, dorji, damaru, inner offering, all of this is supposed to be secret. You know, tantra is supposed to be secret. But you know, like soon I'm going to be leading the introduction to tantra course as well, and we've got to have these courses and something like this of demystifying Tibetan Buddhist ritual, because so much is out in the public domain and it's so easy to get it wrong, to misinterpret what's going on. So I'm going where angels fear to tread and just putting it out there and you know, walking a really fine line here, talking about what's supposed to be a very secret, very private, very special practice, but it's because it is all out there and being bastardized and corrupted and taken, you know, this and that. So we really, as beginner practitioners, we've got to negotiate our way through all of this information and corruption in the Buddhist practice to make sure we don't get into spiritual materialism, and that we know what we're doing and why, and only then do we actually do it. And we take it really carefully. And at least now, when you go to pujas or you see videos and things, you'll be able to recognize what they're doing. And like then the whole Buddhist world opens up then. So, like Diana, you came to puja this morning. I spent many years partying, and I've got to say that after all those years partying, I had a few good parties, you know, a few all-night parties that were memorable and would have made a good movie, but really not that much to show for it. And all the way along, I was just wanting to find the music I could hear in my head. I was wanting to do something that moved me, that was exciting, that, you know, and where did I find it? I found it in doing the pujas. That's the only place that I've found any kind of inner satisfaction, of being deeply affected as a living being on all those levels. Why we hanker after music or art or experiences or emotions or any of that, like it's all superficial. When you actually have the kind of the door open for pujas, of the meaning of it, and you're able to actually do it, like being in the choir, then it is a transformative experience. So that's my favorite thing. So that, you know, the all-night Tara pujas. Now I don't go out to a nightclub all night. We do Tara puja till 5 a.m. in the morning. Okay, so that was a little bit of a sideline there. Now, holding bell and dorji. These are some nice pictures and a couple of mudras. So one for the dispelling the interferences, and you might see this happening in puja as well. Various mantras for that. So what those dispelling interferences are, the interferences, where are we? What we're dispelling, even though it might say dispelling spirits dwelling on the offerings or this or that or whatever, actually what we're dispelling is our doubt and our superstitious mind and our procrastination and our pride. The real heavy inner interferences, that's what we're dispelling forcefully. So we think, like right at the very beginning, we dispel all of those doubts and annoyances and everything gone. And then the second mantra for the dispelling hindrances is usually the emptiness mantra. And so that's where you purify your own grasping at inherent existence. So the emptiness mantra, Om Sobhava Shuddha Sava Dhamma Sobhava Shuddha Om. So this mantra appears in many sadhanas and pujas, and it's to purify the ordinary vision, which is, you know, our main obstacle to enlightenment. So we ourselves become empty, the practice becomes empty, the deity becomes empty, all of it a dependent arising. So again, even just when you say the mantra, it's easier to think of those things. So then you have a mudra that goes along with it. Then it all starts to become integrated in your own practice. So again, things are a bit different now with COVID because a lot of our pujas are online. But generally, when you meet to have a puja, if it's a big group, usually it's just the Omze, the concert master, and a few of the Sangha or senior students that use the bell and dorji, and not everybody else does. So for instance, at Kopan Monastery, if you've got 2,000 monks in Kopan and they all had a bell and dorji, I mean, their ears would be bleeding, right? So it's just like 5 or 6 of the most senior, you know, the Vajra master and the abbot and the ritual masters. So then they use the bell and dorji. But at home in your own practice, then you know, if you have the permission to use them, you do. Here at Langri Tamba Center, we might have like say 10-20 people at puja, and maybe a third or maybe half have permission to use bell and dorji. So we've been encouraging everybody who can to use those and to learn, because we're a beginners center, so we're going to learn together, and we take a little bit of time learning how to do it. So it's a really nice thing to do as a group. If you go to another FPMT center, you kind of just have a look out and see, does everybody have their bell and dorji out or not, and kind of just take it carefully with that. It's different from the mandala offering. The mandala offering everybody should do. But the bell and dorji, you want to definitely let the Omze, the chant master, lead the proceedings and be quite discreet about it. And if you do use them, don't clang. Very mindfully. Beautiful mindful meditation. So we're going to do Tara Puja at some stage together, and the Tara Puja is wonderful because we get to practice the long mandala 4 times, and we get to do the tantric offerings 4 times. So those of you with a highest yoga tantra initiation can do those mudras and make those offerings. And then there is also the homage or the praise. So I thought I'd just put that up here for a moment so we can see. And this comes back to the little symbols down the side that you mentioned right at the beginning. So using the bell and dorji in this praise, and this praise is pretty similar in most of the pujas. You'll recognize it in there. Very, very similar. It's just the English translation changes. So the gods and asuras with their crowns, and you'll see that the hand is holding the dorji, and you hold that dorji at the level of your shoulder, upwards, like a crown. So I'll show you in a moment also without the screen. So the first line, you hold the dorji at the level of your right shoulder, and that represents the crowns of all the gods and asuras, the great, extremely powerful beings in the universe that all bow down. The second line, bow down to your lotus feet. It has a little picture of a bell, but you don't ring it at the beginning of the line. You ring it on the 3rd syllable. So you might think, oh, everybody's really late coming in with the bell. No, 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 no. It's the 3rd syllable that you ring the bell. The 3rd line, it's the lotus flower, and that's the jewel in the lotus mudra. And the 4th line is the hands in the prostration mudra. So when we put it together, if you don't have a bell and dorji, then you can, for the whole of the prayer, you have your hands in the prostration mudra. So everyone can do a mudra. So if you don't have a bell and dorji, hands in prostration. If you do have a bell and dorji, Gods and asuras with their crowns bow down to your lotus feet. Liberator from all problems, Mother Tara, homage to you. Gods and asuras with their crowns bow down to your lotus feet. Liberator from all problems, Mother Tara, homage to you. So it's a really lovely one to get practice at. And in the Tara Puja, 7 times we do through, and we do that 4 times. So 4 sevens, what's that? 28 times. You get a really nice flow to it. And when you actually holding the implements like this, it makes the visualization so much easier. So when you have the dorji here at the level of the shoulder, because you don't have your mudras going out any further than each shoulder, because you're bringing all the energy in, then I like to imagine like an entire enormous football stadium, and everybody, instead of them doing the Mexican wave, they're doing the spontaneous homage. And in the sky above are all the titans, all the gods, Wonder Woman and Superman, and like everybody, some of them really, really enormous, and all the devas and the asuras, the really powerful ones, and they're all putting their head on the ground. They're all putting their crowns at Tara's feet. And Tara's right there in the middle of the stadium, and the 21 Taras are around her. So you put the dorji here, and there it is. Gods and asuras with their crowns bow down to your lotus feet. Liberator from all problems, Mother Tara, homage to you. And so you think everybody's singing this, and they're singing it in perfect harmony in all their different languages, and it all comes together. So you can see Tara Puja really, it generates so much energy. So no wonder Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he said for your center and also for our center to do Tara Puja together at Langri Tamba Center, often together as a group, so that we continue to make the merit to be able to sustain the center. Have to put in the substantial cause for that. All the great, the great teachers, the great lamas, they all relied on Tara. Atisha relied on Tara. Lama Tsongkhapa relied on Tara. It's, this is the way to go, folks. And here is this wonderful practice. Everybody can come to Tara Puja. Everybody can do the mandala offerings. And then some of us can do the tantric offerings. Everybody can make the prostration mudra. So, any last questions before we finish? Anything outstanding? Okay, no, that's
One
all
question.
okay. Yes.
If you have received an empowerment or initiation from another lineage, but I have received a Chakra Samvara initiation from Gajin Rinpoche, does that make that you can actually practice because it's the highest yoga tantra?
Yep. Yes, so it's not so much to do with what lineage, but what class of tantra. So Haruka Chakra Samvara is highest yoga tantra. So out of the the 4 classes of tantra, that is the highest yoga tantra. So then you have the permission to use Bell, Dorji, and Damaru, and the inner offering. You actually have a commitment to use the Bell and Dorji and Damaru. And so then it's very good, like at Tara Puja and at Guru Puja, to be able to use those and become really familiar. So yes, whatever lineage, it's, as long as you keep the lineage clear and you do your practice according to that lineage, and you don't kind of mix and match other practices in, because that's kind of like you've got one recipe and now you're getting the bits from the other recipe in. It can get a bit confusing. So you keep that practice really nice, clean and clear. But in terms of what level of tantra, then that's pretty much across the board. Yep. The other thing too, of course, so, you know, you're all doing Discovering Buddhism. So one of the integration activities for Discovering Buddhism is to do Nyungne. So Nyungne is a lower Tantra practice on, you know, 1,000-arm Chenrezig, great compassion. And it is wonderful to have, you know, if you can, a great Chenrezig initiation before doing the Nyungne, so that you can enter into it wholeheartedly and actually generate as Chenrezig and do the entire practice. And if you do have the Chenrezig initiation, then because the lower Tantra is mostly disciplined by the activities of the body, so sitting well, doing the mudras really nicely, keeping the body clean, having a very strict diet, all of those things, starting from the outside inwards. So the lower tantras focus on physical discipline in order to tame the mind. And so actually it's not a complete Nyungne if you don't do the mudras because of that, because it's that lower tantra practice. So I really encourage you to, you know, if you have the permission to do it, to not be shy, and especially in Nyungnes, to actually, by the end of the Nyungne, you'll be comfortable with the mudras. Don't think, oh, I can't do them because I don't know them. No, that's what the Nyungne is for, is to learn them. And then at the end, you'll get it. So especially for Discovering Buddhism, you know, part of it is to do a Nyungne and have that incredible, you know, purification, Buddhist boot camp, and then to do a few that it says to be able to lead others in Nyungne. So it doesn't mean that you lead the entire weekend, but that eventually one day, and people here after coming and doing, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 Nyungnes, you know, they say, oh, Miffy, I think I'm ready to lead a session. And so then they'll lead a session of the Nyungne, and it's really extraordinary. So there's many reasons to at least understand what's going on here, and then really to take your time, and of course go through the whole of Discovering Buddhism, because that the second last unit of Introduction to Tantra also then gives you a whole lot of background of how to make an informed decision about whether to dive into tantric practice or not, and what it actually means, because again, there's so much out there in the public sphere that is just like totally distorted that it's quite difficult to get some clarity in it, and that's another reason why we need that course. So thank you, Yuval. That was a great question, by the way. So our dedication, because we've had a bit of a rock concert tonight with all of our, from Eurovision to Pure Vision. So now we're going to end with His Holiness rocking out, because we know His Holiness rocks. And here he is with the Wrathful Mudra with Gene Simmons from KISS. So that's the mudra of dispelling hindrances. And isn't it extraordinary? Like heavy metal, they know what that Wrathful Mudra is. I love this photo, and I also love how concerned His Holiness's attendant is behind him, you know, just trying to make sure everything's okay. So so let's dedicate then that we can really enter into the profound world of the pujas and the meditation where we incorporate body, speech and mind together, and that we can go from a Eurovision world to a pure vision world. And that by just learning about all of this, may we be able to bring our practice to fruition in this life. May there be no obstacles, and may we really be able to unify you know, all of the parts of our personality. May we be able to transform these base problematic aggregates into the rainbow body of a Buddha, so that we can quickly liberate all sentient beings. Because the more we see of the world, we know the more the world needs deep help, not just band-aid measures, but to stop this whole cycle of creating suffering. And the tantric path, incorporating all of these practices, is the quickest way to do it. So let's dedicate that we can quickly reach the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, thanks everyone. Not sure what we're doing next week. Oh, next week, Sangha etiquette. All the stuff about the Sangha, how to respect the Sangha, how to support the Sangha, and what to do when things go wrong. So the whole gamut. I really hope to see you again in a short week.
Thank you very much, Mifi, for yet another wonderful teaching. So much appreciated. And thank you for everybody joining us live here today, and also for those of you watching on the video. Thank you very much. And thank you for all of your generous support to Laksam, which enables us to keep the center going so we can pay our rent, and remember that we are all volunteers, and we can also be able to do some benefit for our teachers like Mifi and other teachers joining in. So thank you for all of your generous support. And thank you again. See you next Saturday. Bye-bye.